Welcome back to Drive Your Thoughts podcast. I'm your host, Master Coach Carrie Marshall, and it's time to go after those goals.
Yeah, whether ready or not, life's coming hard, no breaks, no stop. And if you put me on the spot, don't get it twisted, I never drop. If you feel a bit out of control and out the box, here's a way that you could drive your thoughts. Turn this podcast on, it's a lock. Carrie Marshall on the clock.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Today, I'm going to give you a little bit of a book update, but we're also going to talk about the topic that I wrote about just yesterday and why it's so important. So a couple days ago, I was having a conversation with a friend and we were talking about my book. She came into my house and she saw my layout on my wall. I'll take a picture of it and put it on Instagram so you can all see it. But she came in and she was like, "Oh my gosh, what is this? This is so fun." And I said, "Oh, that's my book layout for my book that I'm writing, Dream Wild." And so we started to kind of talk about the book and she's like, "I didn't know you were writing a book. This is so fun." And so she said, can you kind of tell me what it's about?" So as most of you know, if you've been listening to the podcast, my book is about dreaming again as an adult and why having dreams is so important for all aspects of our life, but really how it helps us to kind of start to show up differently in our life when we can remember that we do have dreams and it's not just about the 9 to 5 or taking care of kids. And so what we were talking about is how important it is to have goals and dreams. And she was kind of telling me like, yeah, I can really see how beneficial this is. And she said, I know for myself that just like last year, I realized that I didn't have any dreams for myself. My whole thing has been just about taking care of my kids. And, my friend's been through a little bit of things. And so she said, going through these kind of life-changing events made me realize how I've really put myself on the back burner. And I think that most of us as adults in our 40s or even 30s can really relate to this. There's so many different things that happen in our life, and we really do sometimes put ourselves on the back burner. Whether it's your health, I know that that's something that I struggled with is as I was, raising kids and stuff, putting my own health on the back burner, or maybe it's a goal to start a business or go back to school or, all of these different things. When we don't have a dream and a goal for ourselves, what happens is we just start to kind of live in this monotonous circle, meaning that our day just goes in and out, kind of looking the same. And maybe we're going to go on a vacation or something, but it doesn't feel like we're actually living out really intentionally. It just kind of feels like we're just going through the motions of it. And so that's one of the sections that I talk about in my book is why dreams are so important as adults and why we need to create dreams that are fun and light us up. And I really, truly believe that we all have different desires for a reason. There might be somebody out there that has a dream and a desire to have season tickets for the NBA in their area, right? And maybe that's a goal of theirs because of the camaraderie that they're going to have and for the experience and for all of these different things. Maybe as a kid, they always wanted to go to a game and their parents couldn't afford it. There's so many different reasons that we have our dreams. Well, guess what? That's not one of my dreams. It's not one of my desires. I love watching sports, but do I need to have those season tickets on the best place at the best thing? No, I don't. It's just not one of my desires. And so if I made that goal, it might not really resonate with me and I might not show up to do those actions to get that because I'm like, yeah, I guess that would be fun. The other thing is I probably wouldn't show up for all the games, right? So the reason that I love to see and talk to adults about this is that, we have certain desires for a reason. I believe that God has put desires in each of us that help shape our lives. So if you believe that, if you believe that you have God-given desires, think about what happens if you don't go after those. What happens to your life if you put those on the back burner? Where are your experiences that are going to happen when you go after a dream? You have to really consider that you may not be living your most purposeful life if you aren't going after your own dream. I have a client that when I talked to him about hobbies and how important I thought hobbies are, I still do think they're important. I said, so what are your hobbies? And he said, work and family. And I said, you do know that that's kind of not hobbies at all. Neither one of them. And he said, well, that's my life. And I said, I understand that that's your life right now, but working with me, I require my clients to have hobbies outside of work and family, actually. I'm like, I would like my clients to have 2 hobbies. You can decide what they are, but you need to have a hobby, and they both have to be for yourself. One outside, and then you can decide. I like one outside and one to be creative. That's what I always tell my clients. And he went on to tell me, I don't have time for this. My time's already limited with my family, on and on and on. And he kept fighting for his family and work being his hobby. And I was like, listen, I promise you that if you can make the time and figure this part out, you're going to be able to unlock and tap into something that you didn't even know existed with you in your life. I like to say, it's almost like there's a part of fulfillment within your brain that when we don't have hobbies and things that we're doing and we don't have dreams we're going after, you just can't tap into it. And so he kind of said, I'll think about it. He wasn't all in for a while there. And so finally he got to the point where he said, okay, I think I can do this one hobby that's outside, and I'm committed to doing it twice a month. And I was like, okay, that's a good start. But it was interesting to see that when he started to do this, it unlocked for him this ability to start dreaming again a little bit differently than just well, what's the next goal for work, which is where he would set all of his goals. He actually came to me with a goal specific for his work. Totally great. I love that. But he realized that he was doing it not to tap into dreams, but to just hit the next goal. So, the next goal is to make $2 million. Okay, done. The next goal is 5. The next goal is this. It was always about money and the next trajectory of sales or this, right? And so when we started to create and include hobbies in that, then he started to have different types of dreams. He was like, I want to now go up with my sons in Alaska and create this experience for us because it's going to create this and this. He had all of these things start to unlock for him. And he was like, I read this book when I was a kid that meant so much to me, and I've always wanted to do this. And I'm like, see what happens when we start to create a life that actually has hobbies and dreams in it? So often what we are doing is, like I said, we're living our life just going through the motions without having the dream that's included. Your dreams are not selfish. Having a dream for yourself is not selfish. Me wanting to be an author is not selfish, and it absolutely does not take away from my kids. Women, I really want to hit this hard for you. Your dreams are not selfish. You want to be a competition bodybuilder? Girl, go out and do it. Seriously, you can be 60 years old. If that's your dream, I want you to do that. If you're a new mom, your goals aren't selfish. Your dreams and desires are not selfish. Now, I'll say this about your desires, because I had somebody kind of push up against this, is that I always say that there's something called goodly desires. And those are the desires that I talked about. They're your God-given desires. It's not the desire for more material things, right? It's your desire to create or to help or to whatever else, serve, right? To become the next version of yourself. Those are called goodly desires. There's also these other type of desires that are I want a bigger house. I want more money. Now, those can actually connect to your goodly desire, but I just want you to know the difference. If you see If you see your best friend, get something and then you're like, all of a sudden you want it, that's probably not a goodly desire. If you've always wanted something since you were a little kid, that's probably closer to your goodly desire, if that makes sense. So just kind of know the difference when we talk about desires and really look for, where are your desires at? Where are those goodly desires for yourself? And if you don't know, I want to encourage you to start two things. Number one is start to have a hobby that you can do. Like I always mention to my clients, you all are going to become clients, right? On the podcast. So start now. I want you to remember that you need to have two hobbies, one that's outside and one that's creating something. The next thing is, I want you to understand that it's okay to start to want things again. It's okay to have desires. Because once again, my client that was all about work and family was telling himself that it's selfish to have desires that are just for him. Your desires might include other people, by the way. That's totally great. But I want you to start to create a list of your goodly desires, because that's what's going to help you go back to your dreams. And dreams are what help us. It's like a circle of life. Then our dreams are what helps us then go out and start to create the life that actually lives up to our potential, so that we can really look back and tell ourselves, like, this is worth it. This is what I was put on this earth to do. This is what unlocks my limitless potential. It's fascinating to me to see where people bump up against obstacles that are completely made by themselves. And I might have shared this on the podcast before, but I want to do it again. What I often see with people is that they come to me and we'll talk about, what do you want? What are you creating? Where are you at? And what I see is that people build basically fences around themselves. So I want you to just kind of stick with me. Let's imagine that you're in a field. It's this gorgeous field, whatever you want in it. Maybe there's wildflowers. Maybe it's grass, whatever it is. Maybe it's a golf course, whatever it is, wherever your favorite place is. Mine personally would be like up on a hill with snow. I have my snowboard. Well, then what people start to do is they start to create boundaries for themselves. I could never do this. Okay, well, there goes one piece of the fence. I don't have the experience. There goes another piece of the fence. I can't, or I've never, another piece. And we start to build a fence around ourselves. And what we do from that space, now, like I said, imagine that I'm on my snowboard and I've built this fence around myself. But then I'm looking around and I'm watching everybody else come down the hill. They are all living their potential. They are all out doing the things. And I'm sitting there with my hands on the fence and I'm saying things like, that would be nice. Must be nice. That's lucky. I wish. We talked about wishing versus dreaming before. But I can't see past the fact that I've built my own fence. That's when we kind of start to see that we're not living into our potential. And so that's kind of almost the process that sometimes we go through when you coach with me, is like, we talk about taking down our fence. Like, what do we need to take down? What mindset shifts do we need to have so that we can actually take out these fences that we've created around ourselves? And so going back to dreams, that's part of being able to unlock and like take down our fence, is that when we can actually have a dream for ourselves, then we actually have to start to figure out how to make it happen. We have to do things that we've never done before. We have to fail. We have to look at potential and possibility. We have to try things. We have to do impossible, scary things. We have to look at the version of ourselves that we are and like up level that. And so that's why dreams and goals are so important to me. That's why I talk so much about, like, as an adult, like, what's your next thing? Now, if you can't remember or you can't think of a goal or a dream, I would really encourage you to go back to your dreams that you had as a kid. Now, it doesn't matter if it was to become a professional baseball player. If that was your dream and now you're a 45-year-old guy and you're like, that's never going to happen. I will never do pro baseball. I want you to just kind of ask yourself, what was it about that sounded really special to you? And is there anything that you can do now to actually make that happen for you? Maybe you want to infuse baseball more into your life. Maybe you want to start a video YouTube about, all of these experiences with baseball. I don't know. There's so many options. I'm not going to go through them all. But I want you to just kind of tap into like, why was that a dream and a desire of yours? And then is there anything that's still alive in that? If there's not, that's okay. Here's a really good example of this. I think I've talked about this before, but I'm somewhat obsessed with F1 racing. If you don't know, it's a car. It's Formula One. So these are cars, and it's a specific car, specific race. I love it. It is one of my passions. I actually have on my phone like the schedule for all of the F1 races for the year. I know all of the teams, all of the people. You want to geek out about F1, I'm probably one of your people that you want to come to. But the reason that I talk about this is because when I was about, I think I was 12 or 13, I saw a car and I was obsessed with it. I'd never seen a type of car like this. And so I was talking to somebody about it, and I found out that it was a Formula One car. And so then I figured out that there were Formula One cars, and I was like, I want to be a Formula One driver. Like, that is something I really, really want to do. And so I talk about it. I think I had posters on my wall. Like, this was something I really, really wanted to do. And so I realized that when I turned 16, I started driving, and I didn't know how to drive a stick shift. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that F1 racers are going to have to drive a stick shift, and I can't do that. So I kind of like gave up on that dream. I also had a lot of people tell me that like, that's not a thing. Number one, you're a girl. Number two, you're in Utah. There's like no F1, races or things. And so I just kind of let it go to the wayside. Well, when I was kind of going back to my dreams, I started to think about like, what was it that I really wanted? And I realized that number one, I've always had a passion for cars. I've always loved fast cars. I've loved the body, the style, engines, like all of these different things about cars fascinate me. And it's something that connects me to people. And so when I came back to like, what was that dream about? I looked at, well, am I going to be an F1 racer? No, that's okay. But what can I actually create within that space that now I can actually build around, and what's the desire about? And so that's what I want you to really do when we talk about those goals and dreams when we were children, and like, well, what was that dream about? And then is there anything still alive about that? And so, like I said, I kind of didn't look at Formula One for a really long time. It wasn't something that like when my kids were little, like we wouldn't watch, races, or I wouldn't talk about it. And so just like within the last 3 years, I would say I've like gotten back into it, and it's so much fun. It brings me so much joy. Like I said, it connects me to people. So much fun to follow the racers. I would love to get one of them on the podcast. That'd be amazing. I might cry on it. But that's kind of what we're doing here. And that's why it's so important, is because when we can actually go back and say, like, is there any part of this that's still alive? Then we can create our life around it. So in closing, what I want to kind of remind you of is that you do have these goodly desires. You have things that might not make sense. There's no reason that I would think that, F1 is going to like lead to this, to this, to this. But what I can tell you is that your goodly desires matter. And that's what brings possibility and potential into your life. I once listened to a college kid, and he was giving a speech about baseball, and it was at a church school. It was at BYU, so Brigham Young University. For those of you that aren't in Utah, that is a church school. And so he was talking to this whole group about baseball, and he said something that was really cool. He said, a lot of times people ask me, like, why are you playing baseball? Like, you should be serving a mission or doing this. Like, baseball's not everything. And he said, I really kind of struggled with that until I was reading in the scriptures one time, and I got this really, really solid just like warmth came into my body. And I thought to myself, God loves baseball because I love baseball. God loves me, and so he must love baseball. And he's like, and then I thought about how many times I could serve or be an example or, all these different things because I'm playing baseball at school. And I just really loved that. And that really did resonate with me of, God loves what we love. And if it's a goodly desire, if it's about Formula One racing, like that's a pretty goodly desire. Is it going to lead back to something? I don't know. But we're put on this earth to create experiences and to live out our potential. And so realize that if you're drawn to something, go. If you're drawn to LARPing on the weekend, live action role play, like go, have fun. Don't let other people's opinions hold you back. Realize that when we can unlock potential, so many different fun things can happen in our lives. And so today, what I want to really encourage you to do, I'm giving you homework today on the podcast. Like I said, you're all my clients. Today on the podcast, the homework for today is I want you to go and find one dream that is still active in your life. Go out and find the one dream and desire that you have, and then let's create together an action plan that you can take around this. Now, I've never done this before, but I really want to offer as much value as I can here on the podcast. So here's what I'm going to offer for all of you. And this can be today, it can be tomorrow, it can be in a couple of years. But if you listen to this podcast, I want you to find the dream and desire, and then I want you to come over to Instagram and I want you to just message me privately. And what you're going to say is, hey, I listened to your podcast episode on this, dreams, unlocking dreams. And here's my dream. And you're going to tell me your dream. And then together for the next couple messages, we'll talk about the action that needs to happen for that. This is going to be really fun for us because not often do I do this. And so I really want to help you up level and unlock those dreams. So come over to Instagram, tell me your dream, and then let's have a conversation about the next level of what you can do. I will see you next time. Bye. Thanks for listening to this podcast episode. If you're ready to get in the driver's seat of your own life, you can come and follow me at Drive Your Thoughts Coaching on Instagram, or come and see more ways to work with me at driveyourthoughts.com.
Yeah, whether ready or not, life's coming hard, no breaks, no stop. And if you put me on the spot, don't get it twisted, I never drop. If you feel a bit out of control and out the box, here's a way that you could drive your thoughts. Turn this podcast on, it's a lock. Carrie Marshall on the clock.